Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the channel. This is your bro, the tycoon. It's a lovely weather today out here in London, and I'm coming to you from Acton today. You're welcome to the channel once again. Today, we've got a very interesting topic and a very interesting guest. We've got Mikel Hermine today. He's on here to talk about non-teaching careers within the UK education. Morning, Mikel. How are you doing today?
Morning. I'm very well, thank you.
How do you see the weather today? It's lovely, isn't it?
No, it's not. It really is not. It's very grey. It's definitely the end of summer. It is the end. Yeah, that was the temperatures are dropping.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're absolutely right there. It's a bit weird this morning. I don't know if it's going to rain. I don't know if the sun is going to come out. But I mean, let's leave the weather to the weatherman. But today we have a very interesting topic. Today we've
Mm.
got something. I think the audience would love us to share ideas, talk about, and just try to understand the perspective of someone who is within the education sector, who is within this area. So, but
Mm.
before we start, of course, we have to get to know you, right? We have to get to understand who you are. So, who is Mikel Hermine?
Ooh, who is Mikel Hermine? Wow. Well, I am definitely someone that has worked her way up in education, but done it in a very non-traditional way. I'm not a teacher. I did not do learn. I was not a learning assistant, but I have worked
Yeah.
alongside with schools for the best part of maybe it's definitely over 15 years now. So it's been a long time.
Wow.
Um, it's been a piece of work that's really been close to my heart. So it's something that has gone beyond just something I'm good at to something that I've taken time to do empirical study on. I've done, most of my degree has been around educational issues, especially with those from minority groups. And yeah, so career wise, that's who I am. Outside of that, I am a part time YouTuber. I have been filming a lot of my travels and especially my time going back home to Jamaica and what that sort of meant for me and different things around mental health and emotional support around grief. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talking about YouTube, I didn't. Yeah, I'm very sorry. I didn't even introduce you as a YouTuber as well, because obviously you're way ahead of us in this thing, and you've raked up a couple thousand for yourself. So well done for that. So, yes, Mikel is a YouTuber as well, and obviously we're gonna link in. You're gonna see the link to her YouTube down below in the description. So,
Hmm.
Miguel, tell me, obviously you mentioned Jamaica there, and in our
Yeah.
chat before now, I did realize that you're actually of Jamaican heritage, but
Yes.
you were born in the UK,
Yes.
right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us, what was growing up like for you, Miguel?
Mm. Okay. So, yeah. So I am a Jamaican by heritage. I am part of the Jamaican diaspora. For me, Jamaica is something that has always been part of my upbringing, has always been part of my life. Growing up here in the UK, my mum ran a definite Jamaican household. I had to learn to
Yeah.
cook. I had to learn certain things that was part of our culture. But when and I've been going back and forward probably since I was a baby. The most probably memorable trip was the one that I went with my mother when I was 13, 14 years old. And I really learned the difference of the split identity of being British and Jamaican. There was a sense of lack of belonging because in my head, I thought I knew what being Jamaican was until I arrived when I was 14 years old and I was not seen as one of them. So there was this divide in myself of how I identified myself. I don't go back for another, what I think maybe 14 years after that. And when I do go back as an adult, I feel more at peace and more at home there, in spite of this there's still the continuous struggle of what my identity is as a Jamaican. I still see myself as a British Jamaican that loves going home. I love my people. I love the island. I love the culture. There's something about Jamaica which you can see in my own vlogs and on my own videos. Something about Jamaica that gives me a sense of belonging whenever I go home that sometimes the UK doesn't provide as a young Black British woman.
Yeah, you're right. It's totally different, isn't it? It's a totally different
Yeah.
environment. I watch a lot of MMA, and one of the guys, obviously, I don't know if you know him, Leon Edwards, who was just
Yeah.
a welterweight champion in the UFC.
Hmm.
For those, obviously, that some of my subscribers would understand that I'm a huge mixed martial art fan. And
All
yeah,
right.
Leon obviously was also, I think he was born in Jamaica, but came over here, very little,
Hmm.
and he has his own story as well with his dad being a former gang member and all that. We're
Yeah.
not here to talk about Leon Edwards. So yeah, so I do agree with you. It's a totally different sort of environment, a
Mhm.
totally different culture, and even the weather,
Mm.
everything is different. Yeah, so yeah, I can 100% relate with that being Nigerian myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mikel, what part of the UK did you grow up? What part of the country did you grow up in?
I grew up in Southeast London. I am originally a Camberwell girl. Went to school in Peckham, and
Ooh, London girl, huh?
and let's just say when I hit about 25, I thank God that I survived. No. South London back then is very different to the South London now. The Peckham back then is very different to the Peckham now. Um, Back then, in some years, it was a matter of survival. Gang crime was through the roof. But it felt like normal day-to-day life. So at that age, I didn't see the risk that way. It was just it is what it is. You know, if you knew the right people, you were protected a bit. If you didn't, then good luck. um, it was just, I'm not sure if you've seen Blue Story, but that probably is the closest to how I could describe what growing up at that time was like. Um, and I wouldn't say it was all bad. There are also fun moments. I think also culture back then was very different. So what is seen as high risk now was not seen as high risk back then. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then also once again we're going to bring it back to Jamaica. Like there was a much more heavier influence of Jamaica culture on the streets. You know, Frontline Peckham was very Jamaica heavy, so it felt like
yeah.
little Jamaica in the UK. And I'd probably say the similar
Mm.
thing for Brixton as well. I feel like Peckham now is a bit different, but if you go to maybe like Brixton Market, that's how Peckham was back in the day. That's the best way I can put it, and that's just my personal view. So yeah,
Yeah,
but very diverse, very different, so many different cultures, and I think that's what I love and still love to this day about South London is we are very diverse. I can't speak for other areas as much. I know most of London is quite diverse. South London has a different twang to it. So yeah.
yeah. My baba is Jamaican, and when whenever I go to cut my hair, you feel
Mm.
lots and lots of how to prepare. The way Jamaicans talk, the way I just pick one or two things from what they say, and in my head I process it, and then yeah, I figure it out that way. So
Yeah.
that's just how it works for me. But yeah, really interesting, really nice, lovely people,
Mm.
and yeah,
Mm. We are boisterous
I
though.
love my
We
Nigeria.
are boisterous.
I love my. I'm sorry.
We are boisterous though. We are
Yeah,
we are lovely, but equally as boisterous as well.
yeah. I do love my Jamaican people. To be fair, so shout out
Mm.
to my Jamaican people. You know, right. So we're gonna step it up a bit, and go into the conversation.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're well educated and all that. But how did you get into education? What was the inspiration? How did you how?
Okay. Do you know what? I think it starts for me from a very young age. When I was in secondary school, I thought I wanted to become a historian. I knew history was my thing. That's what I loved. And I loved political and war history, and military war history as well. And then as time went on, I thought I wanted to become a teacher. But one thing that I noted that I felt in my own learning was that I struggled with certain things. So even though I was very educated, I did very well in, well, I'll explain in a second, but I struggled a little bit in some literary skills. And that may have looked at things around like spelling, it looked at things like comprehension. There were things I struggled with, but somehow I always did well enough just to pass. So when I sat my GCSEs, I failed. I failed averagely across the board. But randomly, I had a random A or a random B. So clearly, I was more than capable of doing well. I then go to college, I resit them, and I get A's and B's. And this is literally within 12 months later, I get A's and B's after failing GCSEs the first time. I then go into A levels, a similar thing happens, I dip again, and then I retake them, and there we go, we get B's and C's, and I then head off to university. But that struggle of failing once, then passing, failing once, then passing, made me also question whether I would be a good teacher and whether I could do it. So going back and forward around going to do my PGCE and becoming a teacher was something that I really wrestled with because even though I was good, I struggled a lot. So then
Yeah.
I then leave university. I then go into working as a fostering support worker for a private fostering agency. And then after that, I then navigate into the world of education inclusion by working for the virtual school at a particular London Borough Council. And my time there, I realized that I was extremely passionate about ensuring that young people had the equal opportunities to get into education, irrespective of their background, whether they were in care or whether they had the academic abilities. I wanted to ensure that the system did not discriminate against these young people that, to be fair,
Yeah.
just needed additional support. Now,
Yeah.
once moving on from that role, I went into another role that was within higher education. And I realized that these same issues that I had in my learning at A level and GCSE started to now come up in my working environment. I could no longer hide it. And one day, someone said the word dyslexia out of nowhere. And I thought,
Mm.
dyslexia? What? What's
Mm.
dyslexia? Wait, what?
Yeah.
And the first
I'm
I
gonna
thought
say the
was,
same thing as well. That's
yeah, the first thing I thought was, what? You trying to say I'm stupid? You trying to say I'm dumb? Wait, what? What are you trying to say? No, 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 no.
uh,
And there were signs that in sometimes I could write a very coherent email perfectly fine. And then my calendar spelling looked all everywhere. And it was very hard for me because it didn't just impact my literary skills, it also impacted my timekeeping, my organization. It was the first time I felt I didn't have a handle on anything. So
yeah.
then I then went for an assessment and I then found out that I was dyslexic. They also tested me for something called ADHD, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. And I scored low, so I didn't have ADHD. Or they didn't find any sort of ADHD markers there. And it was then I realized, oh my gosh, I knew why I'd struggled so much. There were certain things that I needed as part of my learning that would have probably helped me pass the first time round for GCSE and also A level. And I think that there was then the catalyst that pushed me back into education inclusion to help young people that, to be fair, looked like me or looked different, had different, special educational needs. And for me, it's the driving force behind my dissertation. It was the driving force behind why I chose to to support kids into a very rigid education system in the UK. Um, yeah, I think for me, education is quite holistic for me. It's not just because, oh, I'm good at it. It's not just because I'm good at it. I know I'm good at it, but I'm also
Yeah,
passionate about my own mishaps that happen for me and how I see it happening in other young people
yeah,
and how we can come into the system and shake it up to ensure that education is working for children, not for the government and not just for the system itself.
yeah. I mean, really impressive. I mean, you went down memory lane a little bit there,
Good.
and that's so good to see the passion that you used to speak about this.
Mm,
You know, relating your own personal experience as someone who had, like you said, who was dyslexic, while you didn't even know about it, but still overcame. That's a
mm,
lot, and I don't think there's anything as good as someone doing something that they are passionate about, working in an area and an environment that they
mm.
like and that they want to see a change. So honestly, well
Yeah,
done, well done, well done for that. And I
thank
mean,
you.
there's no point asking you, oh, why are you in this job? Or why are you so passionate about it? Because you already talked about your experience, you already talked about what you did there.
Mm,
So that's really, really interesting. So what would you say then is the most interesting thing about working with these young people? Because these
mm,
young people, they are in a situation where you have been. So being now someone who has sort of got up from that environment and who is now working with them, what's the most
mm.
interesting thing about that?
So I would say, so in my current role now, I still do work with young people, but I consult. I consult more. Um, I do less of the direct, and I now impact practice and how departments work with children. Now, in regards to now in regards to what I think. So, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, yeah. Like the interesting thing about working with young people,
Interesting. Yeah.
what is the new thing that you've learned? What do you understand from being around
Mm,
them or helping them? You know,
mm,
so share with us.
yeah. What I think is interesting about young people is that no matter what year you're working with them, they present with differences. You can't always read or say, because I worked with young people for the last 10 years, I know. You don't know. Every single
Yeah.
year, a new cohort of kids come in, and you don't know. You think you know, but you don't. You do not know
Mm,
whatsoever. And I think it's the one area of my work where I continuously feel like I'm learning something new. And that's what makes them so interesting. They will stretch adults in a way that we have to think outside the box. You can't become comfortable in your practice. Culture,
mm.
economics, politics really does impact and change the way young people present in the world today. So therefore, the generation I worked with 5 years ago, who were 14 then, and the 14-year-olds that I meet and speak to now, they're very different, very different.
Yeah,
And that's what makes this work so interesting.
yeah. I do agree because so basically you're saying there is no one way to sort of interact with
Nah,
each of them. It's about understanding their own case, their own situation, and then
yeah,
providing solutions to it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, based off of what we hear all the time,
mm,
based off of the times as well that we're in now. The times we're in
mm,
now, these are times where children are children have they've never been more independent than at
yeah,
this time when they're always online doing stuff on TikTok, here doing
mm,
doing this, doing that, playing video games and speaking with people from you know miles and miles, in other countries and all that. So
yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. So, I mean, we're gonna zoom it down a bit now in towards an
mm,
area where you are a lot more sort of interested in an area that concerns the both of us as much as
yeah,
well as and millions of other black people within the UK and the West and the world in general. So I mean, let's talk about young kids in the UK. How
Mm.
do you see? I mean, yeah, just tell me what you know. Also being someone who was once a young kid in this country, what are their challenges and what was their life like?
Okay. All right. I can speak about it having parents that come from a different heritage. Um, I think the challenges for young people here is that hmm, growing
Yeah,
up, we
young
didn't know
black
what we
kids. I
had.
don't think I added that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I
We
said.
didn't
So the
know.
question is, young black kids in the UK. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
didn't know what you
I
had. Go on.
think
Sorry. Yeah.
sometimes, and I know this is very unpopular, I think for some of us young black people, especially as children, I think the identity thing is a thing because you could be at home, whether you're Nigerian, Jamaican, Ghanaian, whatever, and at home there's a set of principles, a set of values, a way of life that's really predicated on your culture. But then you have to assimilate when you leave that door, and you have to assimilate in the British culture in different arenas, whether that's school, the young people in the playground, the youth club. You have to assimilate into what's acceptable out there, and your culture isn't always the thing that's popular. Now, I'm going to be honest. Lucky for me, being Jamaican, being Jamaican in the 90s and the early 2000s was cool. You know, being able to bust two little patois was great. Made you
Yeah.
seen and be okay. But then the other things, maybe such as like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, washing out your shirts, all those things, or getting licks for things that your other white counterparts would never get beaten for, and just those other stuff. That stuff's not accepted. That's not British. That's not
Yeah.
those other principal things. So I think that that plays a massive part in how we see ourselves and how we identify as young black adults now in British culture. There's still this disconnect with me being a black British woman and me being a black Jamaican woman. Massive
Okay.
disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of young people today, also for them, I think what they're facing is a bit different. They may be still facing the cultural thing. I sometimes see it, especially with the summer riot issue that's happened with the racism stuff and the sort of right wing agenda. But I think what they're also dealing with is this keeping up with this technological juggernaut of what it is to be popular now. It looks very different to what being popular to me was. What it
Hello. It looks like your sound is off, Mikel. Yeah, your sound is off. Yeah, yeah, it's off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think young people today, what they are struggling with, and what I'm observing, is that they are under a much wider watchful eye. This whole social media, the way they have to present to the world, isn't
Yeah.
just their peers anymore; it's how they present online, and they're
Yeah.
struggling between that persona online and their actual real selves, and where that stops and where that starts. The bullying and the things that I've witnessed young people witness, or so young people experience, is also a massive difference to what it was maybe when I was a young person. Bullying maybe stayed within school, and it more or less stayed there. And if it did come outside school, it would then became local community, not a whole entire city, country, the world. You can't do one embarrassing thing on the street now and someone hasn't got a camera out, and the next thing someone in Taiwan is commenting on your embarrassing moment. I think for them it's much harder for them to be their authentic selves and not feel awkward or judged for it. And if we quickly jump over to a bit of like knife and gang crime, my young
Mm.
people that I work with now, they are those that have either experienced it, or they are the ones that have are at high risk of becoming involved in gang affiliation. And the main concern there is that gang affiliation is no longer just based on postcode, I don't believe. I think the use of technology in crime and gang culture also heightens the risk for young people to fall into that way of life. And that sense of belonging and that sense of basically being recruited and exploited is much harder for people to manage now because it's all so done online. It's not just the local gang members, it could be somebody from much further away that's exploiting you. So, yeah, I think what they
Yeah.
face is much harder, and it's much harder to manage because it's so vast because of the use of technology.
Yeah. I mean, you talked. Yeah. You're right. Technology. They don't need to meet up anymore to arrange to, for
Mm.
instance, go and strike somebody.
Yeah,
We don't need to meet up and have a meeting. We can just be in WhatsApp, or there are a lot of end-to-end
yeah,
encrypted websites these days, and software and apps on the phone that you can chat, and you know no one's watching you, no one knows what you're doing, and then you
mm,
plan stuff and you just go and hit. It's
yeah,
really, really it's devastating what's happening, especially in London. The
yeah.
stories you hear every day. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what we do about it. Yeah, it's crazy. But let's just we're maybe going to touch on the gang violence again. I don't know how much
Mm,
sort of you're in, or maybe we can just talk about it. I don't know how much you're into it. I don't know the experiences you've had. I don't know if you've had like a personal experience as to maybe somebody within your area, or a kid that you know, or a kid that you've been in contact with that has sort of
yeah.
been involved in that kind of thing. Is there
Mhm.
anything you can share with us?
Okay, yeah, I can. So, from a professional standpoint, I've worked with young people and young adults that have been involved with gang crime for a few years now. Um, I remember my first young person I worked with, who we had to do a lot of safeguarding and a lot of safety planning around visits for him because of the high risk that came with him. Unfortunately, I never forget a day that my young person was stabbed, and it was just after me leaving the premises. And
Oh my God.
it really brought home what young people are inflicting on each other, but also what they're experiencing from one another. Um, I think a lot of young people have a misunderstanding, but also a bit of a cry for help, for a sense of belonging. Hence why for them, gangs can fulfill that need for a sense of belonging. If they've had internal home issues that make them feel lost or feel isolated, the gang can easily fill that void for you.
Boy,
That
yeah.
actually you can belong with us, or feel that you can feel needed with us. But actually, it's all a ploy and it's all exploitation. To be fair, on a personal level,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had personal connections that have gone down this route as well. And would I say that I didn't have my own chance to go down this route? Yes, I did. Where I was raised and stuff, I always had the opportunity to go down this route. But I think back then, I'll use the word that we probably would have used back then. I was a bit of a shookhead, so I wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked for me. I don't think I would have survived that way of life. I was a bit nerdy, a bit scared. So
Hmm.
yeah, at the same time, I probably would have been an easy target as well. But I also had a mother that was very staunch on me, and I think she played a big influence to why I didn't go down that road.
That's really good. Really, really good. Um, yeah, but I mean, I'm sorry to hear of these issues, and I hope those kids, or that kid,
Mm.
I hope they are fine now, and I hope they are living. I hope they didn't die from that situation,
No,
because
they didn't. They didn't. They survived. So that's
yeah,
good.
Good. Because honestly, you're right. When there is a void,
Mm.
when there is an opening somewhere, something would definitely fill that void. I think it's a natural thing. It's natural
Yeah,
that something will come in to fill a gap. This happens in all walks of life, in leadership, in anything that we're doing. For instance, if you're not growing as a person,
yeah,
something is happening, something is filling that void, and then you're dying. Something is filling, there's something you're doing that is not, if you're not walking towards something, then you're walking towards your end or your grave or whatever. So
mm,
I mean, we're gonna get into it now. Just ask, so then, because we're focusing on the Black community here and the
yeah.
challenges that we have. So how can how can the Black community do better then? I mean, we've highlighted some of the issues with
Mm.
parenting and all. And first of all, what are the issues that are causing these things within the Black community? And then how can we do better? Yeah, because I think you need to talk of the issues before you then provide the solution.
Ooh, okay, here we go. That is a loaded question. I actually have to think about this one.
Yeah,
What do I think the issues are within the Black community as that's impacting our young people? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know what? I think what I could say will not be anything different to what hasn't already been identified. Um, I do think that, especially the Black community here in the UK, the disconnect between our roots and our cultures and where we are slightly displace us. Um, and that there, I think, lacks in how we are anchored to our values. I think our anchor is slightly missing here. And I can say that even in myself, at times I feel like what would anchor me, I don't feel anchored here all the time in the UK. Um, I would also go as far as to say, let's just be absolutely transparent. The violence and recent racial, you know what? The racism that we've experienced over the summer with the rioting up in the north and then them trying to infiltrate areas of Greater London, that clearly is
Yeah.
evidence of what Black people have to face every day. It just hasn't been so loud in a long, long time. Definitely before my time. I have not seen nothing like that since. Do you know, I've never seen anything like that. I think my parents probably witnessed it back in the 80s with the Brixton riots and the whole skinhead movement, all of that stuff. I think they would have witnessed it. But this is the first time as a millennial I'm seeing it. And it made it very
Mm,
clear to me that this was something that was brewing for decades. It's been brewing for ages. And those microaggressions that students face in school, students face in, you know, additional support, the systems that they have to work within, whether it's youth justice or education or social care, the racism runs right through every single increment of British culture. And we know that some institutions have been found to be institutionally racist, whether they admit it or not.
yeah.
There are many papers that make it very clear that the evidence suggests that. And we have to face this every day. But prior to the riots that we saw this summer, and prior to the disturbances and the racism that we've witnessed and seen, especially even with our Islamic counterparts, this is some of the things that Black people are facing, but it's done subtly when it's not loud.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
at some point, we can sit here and make all the noises that we want to, but we have to also make changes ourselves in how we
Mm,
interact
I
with
agree.
other people on a day to day.
Yeah.
It can't just be when things are now popping off. It has to be every day we challenge it, or in individual conversations we call it out for what it is there and then. If we have certain positions or we're in leadership positions in our organizations, keep sounding the alarm. I think it has to be continuous. We shouldn't be just jumping
Mm,
up about Black Lives Matter when
yeah.
these things
When something
arise.
happens. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah, I agree
also
with you 100%. Sorry to cut you off.
no, no, go
Personally,
ahead.
I don't. Yeah, personally, I do not subscribe to the idea of crying foul all the time. This is my personal belief. I don't act
Mm,
a victim. That victim mentality. I think a lot of people have that,
yeah.
and but eh, but but then what happens when they are in a position to do something? They will
Mm,
do exactly the same. They would even do worse than the people that they call out when these things happen. And this is something that I think this might be a bit controversial, but this is something that I think is facts in terms of some people just cry foul without really understanding. They do their own sort of little subtle racism on the side, and they if they're in a situation they will do even worse than the people that they're calling out. So it's a bit like it's a mindset thing. Is it's about education. It's about you know understanding.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off there for my own
No,
little rant.
no. I'm really happy you did. 'Cause I think I was on a roll, but like,
So,
I'm happy you said something. But I think also that it's for us as Black people, we got to approach this slightly differently to how we've done in the past. We can't just think of us
yeah.
versus them. I think we need to
I
find
told you maybe I didn't, but we're a segment in these videos where our
where.
guests have to answer a few questions. Very easy questions, very straightforward questions, not difficult at all. And so, we're going to get into that segment. So it is time for quick fire. Right. So the first question for you,
Yeah.
Miss Mikel, is how many colors are on the Jamaican flag?
Is it three?
How many colors are on the
Is it
Jamaican flag?
three? Black, yellow, and green? Yeah, three.
Correct.
I hate quizzes.
Correct. Right. So the
Mm.
second question in our quick fire segment is how many gold medals did Usain Bolt win? Usain Bolt is a legendary Jamaican sprinter. So how many Olympic? Just to be because he won other medals in athletics in the championships, world championships, but in the Olympics, how many Olympic gold medals did Usain Bolt win?
Can I Google it? Because I really don't know. I think I stopped counting at
No, you
6.
no, you can't Google it. You can't
Oh,
Google it.
right.
You can't. That
Yes, I'm gonna say 10. I'm gonna say 10 and leave it at that.
well, well, are
What is
you
it?
right? Are you wrong? Are you right?
They
No,
shot you.
you are wrong. Usain
They
Bolt
shot you.
won
They
eight
shot you.
Olympic gold
Oh,
They
8.
shot
medals.
you.
I was in the middle. I was in the
Eight
middle.
Olympic, eight Olympic gold medals.
I should know
The
that, but I don't.
legendary
I really
Usain
don't know
Bolt won eight Olympic gold medals. Anyway, I mean you 50%. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I'm sure you can take that.
I'll take that. I'll take the 15.
Yeah, very interesting chat today.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we're gonna be wrapping up because obviously we don't have the whole day. Got other things to do. Thank you very much for coming on to the channel today and for having this very important discussion. I think it's very important that we talk about these things once in a while. So to wrap up, then, in your opinion, what would you think is the best course of action for for parents to take, right? For parents of black kids, for black parents, black people as a whole, what do we do to
Yeah.
change the attitude of kids, the young black kids, to take them away from knife crime and to take them into proper and valid education that would help them going
Mm.
into the next into that could help them with actual skills that they can then go on and make real changes to the world. Yeah, what are what in your opinion is the best thing to do?
I would say to continue to inquire in your child's life. I know when they reach teenage years and adolescence that they tend to sort of change, but those changes are something that they can't really do much about. They're psychological, emotional. There's things that they can't control, but do not see it as just a challenge. See it as it's a biological and physiological change for them. And I think parents need to continue to inquire into their children's lives of all aspects, even when they are being defiant. Just continue to inquire and continue to be nosy. Continue, because that in those instances you may be able to pick up the risk of child exploitation, gang affiliation, and maybe even gaps where they are struggling in education. So continue to be that nosy parent. Don't just stop because your child is now being a bit isolated from you or they're being a bit challenging. Be more of like a critical friend, my colleague loves to use. Don't just think your child's just being bad. They actually sometimes are going through things. Extend a bit of grace. And I know that can be hard when you have a child that's, doing a lot. But continue to be their critical friend as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, really interesting, really interesting advice there. Continue to inquire, continue to be nosy, and be critical. And I agree with you there. I don't think I can agree more. Is that correct? Or do
Yeah,
you let?
critical friend.
Yeah. So yeah. So thank you very much, Mikel, today for the audience. And I mean, I hope for people watching, I hope you've learned something today. I hope you've learned things that you can add into your routine for your kids. If you're about to have kids, if you have kids already, there are very important things that you need to do in order to put them into the right path. So where can we find you, Mikel? Obviously, just say it to us, but we'll still put them in the description below in the videos. Where can we find you on your YouTube, your Instagram, your
Yeah.
Twitter, or whatever? Tell us. TikTok.
So yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Mikel Hermine. I'm also on Instagram at _Mikel_Hermine. And I'm also on TikTok as Mikel Hermine. So yeah, all the links will be below.
Yes, of course, all the links will be below. Thank you very much, Mikel, for today. I'm just going to wrap up. Thank you for joining us today. Guys, that is the end of the video. Thanks, guys, for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Please do like the video. Please share the video to educate someone. What we do on this channel is to educate and enlighten. And we're also here to have some fun, to enjoy ourselves. Thank you very much for watching this video today. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Again, this is your bro, the Tycoon. Peace be unto you. Bye.